Recording here. Rock and roll. Chris, man, first and foremost, I want to thank you for sitting down with me on my show, UNGOOGLEABLE. You know, it's a perfect scenario. I always tell my friends and clients that you never know who you're going to be speaking with. You know, like from a business perspective, being a coach at a gym, it's always important to, you know, represent, because I've been speaking and chatting with you for the last couple of years, and you know, seeing you train, you know, it was only recently when I started asking more and more questions that I found out that you're an ultra endurance athlete. So that's why I asked you to sit down. I'm, you know, really fascinated with the mindset, the mental approach of all that goes into that. So I figured we start this off with, I've already introduced you. Maybe explain to the people listening who don't know what ultra endurance athlete means. What does those three words succumb? What does that, you know, entail?
Okay, well, I guess ultra endurance athlete is encompasses a lot of or facets of endurance, but I mean, my main focus is on running, and I run a lot of ultra marathons, usually on trail or mountain terrain, rather than road or track, because you know, you say the word ultra and it can mean so many things. There are 24-hour events on athletics tracks and things like that. It's an ultra marathon.
Around the one circle, right?
Just round and round a 400-meter track.
For 24 hours.
24 hours, yeah. So there are like 12-hour events, 24-hour events. There's even, you know, ones that go on for longer than that. But primarily, I'm more of a mountain runner, so I like to go to, you know, really beautiful scenic places.
I've seen you online, the Fiji.
Yeah.
The very picturesque photos, and you know, guys listening, just Google Chris Warren endurance athlete. You'll see the photos. You're like, because I wanted to ask about that aspect. I was well versed on the flat track one. A friend of mine in America does those events in San Diego. But the photos I found on you, it almost looks like you're coming out of a cave or coming out of a mountain, climbing. Now, it's all under the same umbrella. Is it just about which one appeases the athlete more?
Absolutely, yeah.
Talk about Fiji. What was that like?
Mount Fuji, you mean? Mount Fuji?
Yeah, Mount Fuji.
So that was a 100-mile race around Mount Fuji. So it basically encircles the whole thing. So just going up and down the mountain ranges around Mount Fuji. I mean, what drew me to that was I've done a lot of events, but this one I've always wanted to do. It was really high on my list of things to do. One, because I just love Japan. I've been there, you know, a few times. The place is just incredible. The people are amazing. The other thing that really drew me to this one was, you know, the scenery. Mount Fuji itself is just a stunning. It's iconic.
There's a lake there. I saw the photo. Just looks like it was painted, like it was dropped out of like a movie.
It's so beautiful. Like the whole race. It was 100 miles or 170 kilometers.
Yeah.
But at any point you could stop and look around, and you were just in a postcard. It was just unreal, you know. And
are these competitive? Like, are they? Because I know some of them, it's all about finishing. But are they like? Explain that sort of component. Are people signing up and taking part in these as like a mental me versus me sort of thing, or does it get competitive? Like, do you guys know who the top dogs are? Do you know that, hey, this guy beat me last year, I'm going for him? Is it like that?
Absolutely, it's competitive. But like you said, there's a wide range of people that take part in these things, and it's one of the reasons why it's so great and why everyone loves it. You know, primarily you have, yes, there will be like a top maybe 50 very competitive people, perhaps extending to 100, and there's always previews of these races, like who's going to have a battle for first and second, you know, who's going to vie for honors. There's usually like a top 3 podium. There'll be prize money involved, you know, there's sponsorships involved. It can get pretty competitive.
So the higher you finish, there is kind of like awards for that.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And but you know, you have that at one end of the spectrum. Of course, at the other end, you have these people that they're literally entering just to finish. So a race such as the one around Mount Fuji, the winner may finish in, I think it was this year, 19 hours. 19 hours. Okay. Yeah. So, but the actual cutoff for the event, so you're allowed to take 46 hours. Wow. Some people will actually take all of that time. Yeah. So they may stop at the checkpoints for longer. They may even take naps. They'll have to sleep because it's just such a long event. And those type of people, you know, I always look at
those type of people. Are we marginalizing?
Well, perhaps, but I always.
You're not a sleeper, are you?
But no.
Yeah.
But I find those people they're the real heroes. You know, they can go on the longest. mentally perhaps they're stronger because they can just keep going and going and going. And I mean, the people that finish in 19 hours, it's, you know, you could say it's finished reasonably quick. It's not a fast, it's not a fast race. 19 hours is a very long time to be running, and of course, you have to be incredibly mentally strong to do that, because you have to constantly push yourself hard for that amount of time. And to do that, you know, you need a very, very strong mental attitude. You have to be able to just push this pain to the back of your mind. However, you have the other side where you just have to keep going, and you're going for more than twice the amount of time as a front runner.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? You know, you're just pushing yourself. You're obviously, I don't want to pigeonhole people, but you're probably not quite as fit as the people at the front. Mm-hmm. So even though you're going slower, you're still pushing yourself. You know, you're still putting that effort in, and to do that for such a huge amount of time, you're talking like almost 2 days. You know, you might be able to get an hour's sleep here and there, but you're going to be mentally tired, you're going to be physically tired, but just to be able to keep going and finish in that amount of time, to me, is amazing.
Yeah.
Just as amazing as someone finishing in 19 hours.
I mean, just signing up, you asked, you proposed the question, how do you do that? And that's why I wanted to talk to you. The mindset capacity, I was listening to one of these guys in America, he was talking about the first time he signed up for one of these ultra endurance events was one of the track types, the one that, 100 miles, I think the cutoff was you either finish within, either run straight consecutively for 24 hours or 100 miles, whatever one comes first.
Okay. Yeah.
He had never done this. He signed up because he was a Navy SEAL and there was something happened overseas and he was doing it to raise money. Yeah. So he goes in thinking that he was a SEAL with no training. I don't think he'd ever even run a half before, a half marathon.
But obviously he's very physically fit.
He's very physically fit. So what the mindset, which really, I started really getting into that about 6 months ago when I heard him on a podcast. And then I was thinking to myself, man, I am weak. I thought I've been through adversity, but we all go through adversity. Now, this type of adversity during an endurance event, you choose to be there. That's a big difference rather than life happening to us, loss of a loved one, losing a job, that sort of thing. Yep. So he said he finished it, but at mile 70, he said he peed himself, he collapsed. He said that he started peeing, I think he said he started peeing blood.
That happens, yeah.
Something along those lines.
That's reasonably common.
And he was going to quit. Yeah. But he said something in him was like, you know what, you've quit your whole life, don't quit. He gets up, long story short, he finishes the race. Mm. He said at that moment, though, he knew that all humans quit at 40%.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So he said when he thought he was giving 170% of 70% of the race done, and then he stopped and then finished, he realized, no. Those sort of aha moments, talk about maybe, do those happen to, I mean, I saw, you were in a race for over 30 hours, correct?
Yeah, 38 hours is my longest race.
I was talking to my girlfriend last night because I kind of use her as a buffer before I do these podcasts. I like, going over my content and my questions. And I told her, I was like, Christina, I don't know if I could stay up for 38 hours. Just stay up.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
were performing for 38 hours. Talk about the struggles, talk about the excitement, the anxiety of preparing for that, and then whilst you're in it.
Yeah, so preparation for that one was actually really important, and you have to know going in exactly what you're in for, because that amount of time, you're right, it's not just the physical tiredness of it. Your legs are always going to hurt doing an ultra, but then you have to manage things like lack of sleep and what it's going to do to you, especially mentally.
So you sleep a lot before? Does it work that way? Is it like I have because don't you have an event tomorrow too?
Yes, yeah.
You're a savage, dude. So go on. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, it always helps to get a good night's sleep before a race. It's really important. But this event in itself was, so you had to look at it from a perspective of how fast can I actually do this thing. So you have to read into, especially that one was that the terrain was incredibly difficult, really slow going. It was overgrown, so you're bush bashing for a lot of it.
Well, so when you say slow growing and bush bashing, so it's not like what we think, a carbon copy cut out of a course flat.
Absolutely. So
it's not like that.
So this one was about 11,000 meters total elevation. So you're just going up and down constantly. And the terrain was really uneven. It was very technical, and by technical I mean there's a lot of rocks, tree roots, things like that. It's really, really uneven. You really have to watch your step when you're running. And with the terrain being so difficult in this one, you knew that you weren't going to be able to run very fast for large stretches of it. So going into it, you just have to think, right, I'm going to be doing this thing for a very, very long time. If you think you're going to be finished in 15 hours, just forget it. You won't you'll get to your 15 hours, realize you're not even maybe halfway in the race, and go, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So mentally, you have to prepare yourself
for the long
that.
haul.
Yeah. You really have to know that going in. So I was prepared for that, and I thought I'm going to be looking at least, I don't know, I had a target time of about 30 hours.
Okay. Had you done it? Have you before you completed this? Had you done it before?
No, this was an inaugural race, so it was the first time it was being run.
And nobody had done it before.
Nobody had done this before, so
It's like the whole, was his name Richard Bannister or Roger Bannister in the 60s, the 4-minute mile?
yeah.
Like before that, nobody had done it. He did it. The 19 people did it.
Yeah.
How? But in that case, nobody had done it. What were the times? So you said you put 30 hours on it.
I put about 30 hours on it. They had a lot of these races. They'll put target times on the winner, so they'll say they're looking at maybe 24 hours, 25 hours for the winner. That would usually be someone who is either I would hesitate to say professional runner, but they'll probably be doing it for a living, I would say, or they wouldn't be doing it full time. So I usually put myself. I try and put myself maybe sort of 10% behind the winner, because obviously I'm not full time. I have a full time job. This is only my part time thing. So
wow,
I was thinking
that's something as well that you're able to get the training in like that, and you're not. It's not even. It's kind of a passion project.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't always like this. I built it up gradually, but now it's kind of an addiction. So. So knowing the difficulty going in was a huge thing. And during the race, I was always very conscious of not trying to go too fast. I didn't want to fall or put myself out of it in any way. So I was always just thinking, just keep going slowly but steady. And I was talking to myself a lot during this one.
Do you have headphones in? Do you have gear with you? Are you running with a pack?
It's interesting.
30 hours. It's like, do you have a tent?
You always have to run with a pack. I mean,
Okay.
this is the one I'm taking tomorrow.
Show the camera that.
That's,
Okay, cool.
That's basically, and that's got all my gear in too for later on. So
awesome. So this is going to be part of you when you're running.
So that will be the pack I actually take.
And what's in that thing without unpacking it?
So there's thermal clothing, there's a rudimentary first aid kit, there's waterproof jacket, waterproof trousers.
Anything to start a fire? Like
yes, there'll be matches, fire lighter.
Because you'd be thinking of like if you're in the wilderness and not used to the terrain, what if you get lost?
Yeah, so you have to carry everything that will.
Compass?
There's compass, yes.
Flare?
Not a flare, but a space blanket.
Okay.
And yeah, anything that will allow you to stay warm and comfortable for anywhere up to maybe 6-7 hours, or how long it may take them to reach you and extract you.
Is it ever comfortable though? Like these things sound like you guys and girls choose to do these to become uncomfortable.
Well, that's true. I mean, I think on a very basic level with these ultras is that people want a real challenge.
Yeah.
And you can see it all over the course, whether you're a fast runner or a slow runner. What you'll notice is you can go online and look at pictures of people doing marathons and half marathons, and they might look like they're struggling, they may have faces of pain, they might get to the end and they look very happy. However, you look at pictures of people doing ultras and there's it's not just happiness or pain, you see real raw emotion there. And I think that's what draws a lot of people to these things nowadays. You'll see someone finish, they'll literally cry, they'll just, they'll think, I've finally overcome this thing, it's been so long, it's been so hard. And you really see it pouring out of people in these events.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing. I've been bringing up on the show lately about the levels of happiness and this one specific study that Harvard done about the only way we could reach the highest level of happiness is through suffering. Like there always has to be an element of suffering through it, and they use the example of you never go to your buddy, you went to an amusement park, you never look at him and was like, hey man, do you remember that roller coaster last year? That was really fun. It's always like, do you remember we went to climb that mountain and almost died?
Yeah.
That was really fun. That sort of thing. So let's talk about the suffering component. Does that draw you in, or is it something like in hindsight you're like, that's cool? Like what is that all about? And what's this? Maybe try to explain to a guy like me who can't even fathom what even staying up for 38 hours is like, but let alone competing for 38 hours. Try to explain that suffering to me.
It is the challenge and the suffering that draws you in. However, once you're there and you're doing it, it's very different. So you literally have these two perspectives of a race. So you probably, you may know something about this, but it's generally regarded that the body forgets pain very quickly. So when you're doing a race, you can get to the point where it's so painful and you want to keep going, but you really just don't want the pain anymore. You're kind of like, oh, why am I doing this? It's so painful. Is it really worth it? And you always have these.
When does that set in? Like how long? That pain that you're talking about.
Specifically
you
for
probably
me,
have a high. Yeah.
I always tend to hit it around the marathon mark, so I get to about 40k in kilometers.
Yeah,
That is 26 miles. But I always get this marathon fatigue, so I get to 40k and it's like, oh, and this familiarity just comes flooding back. It's like, oh yeah, I remember now. This is the pain. This is the fatigue, and here's where I'm going to start to suffer. And at that point, you do experience a kind of little mental low, because you kind of like, oh yeah, I remember the pain now. This is what it's going to feel like, and do I want to keep going? And is it going to feel like this the whole race? But then once you're experienced in these events, you know that you have these lows, but then you have these highs as well. So you'll have periods where you literally just want to stop, lie down, and quit. But you think, okay, I'll just keep pushing for maybe half an hour, 40 minutes. And then usually you'll come out of it. Your legs might start to feel a bit better. They'll loosen up a bit more. Mentally, it has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Your mental attitude. You'll say, oh, you know what, this isn't so bad, or you'll see a nice view, or you'll start passing a few people. And all of a sudden your legs, you'll forget about the pain.
How long have you been doing this?
Ultras, probably 8 years.
8 years. And what was your thought process? So you're getting ready to just do a measly marathon tomorrow, right?
It's 100k tomorrow.
Oh, my bad. I thought so. Forget the measly, because I know one of my buddy who does it. He'll do marathons just as like a warm up.
Yeah.
So, but you're doing a full on 100k tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's rewind back to 8 years ago, going into your first one, your mental state the night before, and then, it's cool to have you right now, literally the night before another one. Talk about some things that have changed mentally for you from that first race to what you're going to do tomorrow, and maybe some of the common denominators that are still there.
Okay. The main thing that's changed over the years is definitely expectation.
Interesting.
When I did my first one, I was expecting to do it fast. I was a marathon runner then, so I was doing a lot of road marathons.
How many years of experience did you have with that before you got?
A couple of years of doing marathons.
Is that a natural progression? Do you see a lot of people who had done the marathons flow into what you're doing now?
Absolutely, yeah. Because what we find is that, or what personally I found, was doing a road marathon was a good challenge. But then what do you do after that? You hit your goal in that. And then what was the next thing? That's what I was always constantly asking myself back then, was what's next? So I started off doing, I was just lose a bit of weight, and I would start off doing maybe 3Ks a day, just 2 or 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
But it just grew, and I started, my first race was City to Surf.
Yeah, in Sydney.
14 kilometers.
That was your first race?
My first ever race, yeah.
How old were you?
It would have been 10 years ago.
All right.
Give or take.
and so you're in your 40s now?
Yes.
So you would have been in your 30s?
Yeah.
Wow, did you give guys like me hope, man?
I'm
dead serious.
I started late. I wasn't always a runner. I mean, I'm not built for it. I'm pretty short. My legs are bowed. I'm just.
Oh, if you put on some weight, I've talked to some high-level sprinters. Buddy Morris being one of them, famous strength coach for the Arizona Cardinals. But he talks about the sprinter body either being short and compact, or the tall and lean one.
Yeah.
But so you started, because last night, for instance, I have this app. It's a constellation app for the stars. And they messaged me and it says the stars are in perfect condition to gaze. So I step outside and it's crystal clear, but my subconscious in me is partially why I'm probably talking to you right now. And I had Rich roll on earlier in the week. My subconscious is telling me, Johnny, you just turned 36, you played sports, but you've never tested yourself. You've never done anything. I've never done a half marathon. I've been in Sydney, September will be 5 years. I've never even done the City to Surf.
Okay.
But I went for a run last night.
Yeah.
I don't even know why. I just went for a run, and I get to the end of the street, and I was like, you know what? Let me see if I could get to the street light. And I got to the street light, I was like, let me see if I can get to my girlfriend's house. And then I ran there and ran back, and it just had me, because I've been kind of on the fence, being more inquisitive about what that's like, what's the mental capacity, and do I have what it takes? So the City to Surf thing is probably something I should do. Yeah. I have in my notes, I want to get into a couple of the marathons. I wanted you to explain what the Barclays is, the race that eats its young, and then another one that I had written down was the Moroccan Desert one. Yeah. But before we get there, for people listening to at home, maybe people like myself that are on the fence or inquiring about how to partake in getting involved, kind of give us some advice on what you would say to a first time runner?
Yeah, like going back to the expectation
Yeah.
thing, it's manage your expectation. I thought the first 100K I did would be fast. I was used to doing marathons, and I did enter a 45K, the 6-foot track, which is quite a popular ultra here in Sydney. And I was thinking, oh, you know what? If I can do 45K at this pace, then my 100K should be, this speed. And I'm literally just sort of doubling the time. But that was just completely
Flat track?
6-foot track. No, is actually quite hilly.
Okay.
So I thought that was a good way to gauge it.
not
So
so.
stepping into my first 100K, I actually didn't finish it. So I had to bow out after about 45 kilometers or so. And literally because I just completely underestimated what I was in for. So
Do you burn out too quick?
Yeah, absolutely. I went out way too fast. I thought I could maintain that kind of pace for 100 kilometers. I mean, it was silly, but I was
I read that in your blog. I was on your short bald runner. We'll put that in the show notes.
And
does that happen quite often?
And it happens quite often. Not just to me, but to a lot of people. That you just get this you get this excitement at the start of a race, and you want to push yourself out to the front. You want to be there, but you can run 10K in 40 minutes.
Turtle and the rabbit story.
But in a 100K race or a 100-mile race, it's just way too fast. You'll end up just burning all your energy away. And in these kind of like long endurance events, once your energy levels are low or gone, you just cannot get it back. You'll never replace the calories you're burning. You're always at a deficit. So
are you carrying like maybe electrolytes on you? Or are you doing some? I know like some of the brands, it's like those little gummies that are
the
sugar,
gels, gums. There's now a liquid fuel that a lot of people use called Tailwind, which is pretty popular. Basically, Tailwind is kind of like just telling you to ditch all of the food. So don't take the gels anymore. Don't eat. Just
don't eat.
Just drink this stuff, and it will last you a whole race.
How about going to the bathroom in 38 hours?
It happens.
Yeah. Do you just continue to just go through it? Or are you stopping and like finding a spot?
Yeah, well, I normally stop and find a spot. Yeah. But I find that you don't actually have to go that often. It's, you're burning through so much stuff that you really, if you're really busting for a wee very often, it probably means you're drinking too much.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do that. They don't drink to thirst. They'll just think, oh, you know what? My watch says half an hour. I should take another drink. Yeah. Even when you're not thirsty. And then you get into dangers of hyponatremia and things like that, where you're drinking actually too much water.
Really?
Which is
hypernatremia.
Which is another common cause of injury for ultras, is that people drink too much.
And then what are the effects of that?
Well, it's something to do with diluting the sodium in your bloodstream. So you
becomes toxic.
Yeah, you end up with too low salt levels and things like that.
Yes.
And it basically put you in the hospital. So
yeah.
There's a lot of things that can happen on an ultra. Obviously, it's.
Have you ever been afraid for your life? Were you ever in a scenario that you were like, "Wow, this might be it"?
Only once, and it's ironic because this was an easy, quote easy unquote race. It was one of these track ones that I mentioned. So it was 100 kilometers around a track, so totally flat. I was thinking it would be a bit of an easy day, and I ran it reasonably quick, so it was sub 10 hours, I think it was, or around 10 hours, which for me is pretty fast for 100K. But I just hadn't eaten and drunk enough during the event, so I found that I was okay immediately after the race, and I was okay until I got home, and then I noticed that I had blood in my urine. I was shaking uncontrollably, and I literally just had to just sit down, and I was shivering, and I was on the brink of calling an ambulance, basically, because I felt that bad. But that's been the worst of it. I sort of slowly ate and drank just little tiny bits and thought, you know what, I don't feel too bad now, and started recovering over the next 10 hours or so.
What's that recovery usually like? Like if you had to make a average of doing one of these, how many days? Is it just one day? How long do you sleep? Like, what do you feel like the next day after your first sleep? What's that like? Yeah,
it's always difficult to sleep immediately afterwards. So for a 100-kilometer event, as an example, I'll normally finish early evening. So I'll have a couple of hours of just try and relax before I try and sleep. But you find that certainly the first night your legs are still ticking over. You'll be very sore, very aching from the race, so it's difficult to get any kind of good sleep that night. You'll be very broken. And the first day afterwards, you'll be sore, but not too bad. So I find that the second night you'll get a really good sleep because your body will just be so tired. It's starting to repair itself. It just wants to recover. So you get a really good sleep the second night, but then the day after that is when the soreness has really kicked in. So that day will be the worst, and then you'll slowly sort of
get better.
The muscle soreness will get better after that. And for myself, it's normally maybe 3 or 4 days I'll take off of complete rest. And then after that, I'll begin slow recovery running just to get the blood flowing and speed up the recovery process. Come to the gym, do some weights, but pretty light stuff, just for the remainder of the week. And then after that, I'll be training back as normal.
Chris, when did this become a thing? Like in pop culture, or I don't know, do you know the history? Like has it always been a thing doing ultras, or is this something new within the last few decades?
No, it's really grown in the last 10 years.
What do you, explain that to us.
Let's take the race I'm doing tomorrow as an example. The first time I did this was 8 years ago.
Oh wow.
And I would guesstimate maybe around the 300 to 400 people mark were actually taking part. Now it's thousands.
Really?
Yeah.
So there's thousands of people tomorrow going to do this?
Yep, and now this and this particular
Where's
event,
this race at?
up in the Blue Mountains.
It's up in the Blue Mountains.
Yeah.
So do you start like Katoomba?
It starts in Katoomba at Scenic World.
Yeah?
Yep, and finishes there too.
Do you go down the stairs?
Yep, so you go down further steps to
all the
begin.
way to the bottom?
All the way to the bottom.
And then, I just did this hike. So you don't loop back around and come back up, or do you go into the wilderness?
You go into the wilderness, so you basically go down further, you go out along Narrow Neck, all the way down to a place called Dunphy's Camp.
Yep.
You come back up the 6-foot track.
Yep.
Then out past Wentworth Falls and Leura, down to Jameson Valley, and you basically come all the way back past Leura, past Wentworth Falls, and back up the further steps to finish.
Thousands of people.
Yeah, and
That's
this is now
fascinating.
and this is now a huge event. So it's not just one race. Now they have a 22 kilometer, a 50 kilometer, a 100 kilometer. So you get all these different.
Are these all locals?
People with different.
I mean,
abilities.
from Australia, or are you getting out of towners?
A lot of overseas people come and do this now. In fact, I think this race, in terms of ultras around the world, this is, I think, maybe the second or third largest in the world now.
Really?
It's such an event now. They've really grown it.
That's fascinating. And what is the race called one more time?
Ultra Trail Australia.
Ultra Trail Australia. This would be your 8th year?
Yep.
Now, what's your highest finish there? What's your intentions going into it tomorrow? Is it always, I just want to finish and then everything else from there is good? Or you seem like a really competitive dude, or is it like, all right, last year I got in this spot, I better one up and get this spot? What's that like?
Yeah. So every race I do now, there's 3 goals. So one is to finish. Anything 100 kilometer above, if you finish, it's a success no matter what.
It goes in the resume, right?
It does, absolutely, yeah. A finish is just awesome, because just to be able to go that far, even if you're walking, walking 100 kilometers is not easy.
They do that, right? It's called the Ox. I think there's a
trail walker.
Yeah.
But people obviously, again, it's like you have to do that in a team of 4.
Okay.
Some people run it, finish it in 10 hours. Some people walk it, finish it in 40 hours. So it's same as anything else. But yeah, finish is always top priority. Then I'll have a time in mind and then a placement in mind. So for tomorrow, so obviously finish goal number 1. Sub 11, 10 and a half hours would be great for a time, and top 30 would be great for a placement. Now if I hit any one of those, I'll be happy, but obviously my happiness level will be higher the more targets I hit. So
that's right.
Yeah, so the last one I did in Japan, the Mount Fuji race, I wanted to finish number 1 because it's 170 kilometers. Of course, it's incredibly difficult just to finish it. I wanted to get under 30 hours and I wanted to be in the top 50. So I did finish, I got under 30 hours, but I didn't quite get in the top 50. So
what did you finish?
61 or 62.
Out of how many people?
2,000 maybe.
That's crazy. That's unbelievable. Do you think, now let's talk about the family dynamic. I know you're married, you have some little ones. When you're traveling, are you able to fuse this passion of yours into also kind of being, multifaceted as an opportunity to travel with the family? Do they go with you? And maybe talk about those experiences going to compete and, did they go to Japan with you?
They did, yeah. So my wife and my 2 children actually supported me the whole time.
Wow.
During that race. We don't often take the children along because for something like a 100-mile race, it's probably a bit too long for them.
Do you have a, what are they called? Somebody who like meets you in certain parts to kind of push you along?
Support crew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have that?
My wife is my support crew.
That's amazing.
So she comes to almost every race that I do. And her job is basically to follow me around in a car or event bus, you know, and she'll basically have my support kit, which is anything, you know, it's my extra food, change of clothes, change of shoes if I need it, because let's say, I don't know, I start developing a blister or something on my foot, helps to change your shoes and just, you know, alleviate
Just
pressure and different, yep. So she does all of this for me, probably in about 90% of the races. And again, and she's there for mental support as well. So when I pull into a checkpoint and I'm feeling pretty down, she'll get me going again.
Has she ever told you to stop?
No.
That's powerful, man.
But that's a prerequisite of a support crew. You never really tell someone to pull out unless it's, you know, medically dangerous to carry on. But your support crew generally won't make that decision. It'll be you'll have some first aiders that will say, you know what, you shouldn't carry on. You're getting hypothermia or something. So
yeah.
But May's always been, you know, 100% positive. I come to a checkpoint, I'm feeling absolutely terrible, and she'll say, hey, you know what? The next checkpoint's only 10 kilometers. That's nothing to you. Why don't you just walk it, have some food, and see how you feel? She'll never tell me to stop. Yeah.
That's awesome. Over the last 8 years, how many have you done?
Oh, I don't think I could put a number on it.
Wow. So it's not like you've done like 5.
No, I mean, last year I did 11 events over 100 kilometers. So.
Wow. How many different cities? 11?
So I did. Oh, let's see if I can go through them. The Hong Kong 100, the Tarawera Ultra in New Zealand.
All finished?
All finished, yeah.
Wow.
I did the Mount Solitary Ultra, so no, I didn't finish the Mount Solitary one. That was it. Then I did Ultra Trail Australia again, Buffalo Stampede down in Victoria, Ultra Trail Lavaredo in Italy, the Hounslow Classic. There were more. I mean,
yeah, it's hard. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No.
Have you done? So tell the people listening and explain. You know, there's like a couple of these races that are. I don't want to say. I always use a bad American sports reference, like the Super Bowl of whatever. But the aforementioned Barclays Marathon, which they brag that it's the race that eats its young, and then the Moroccan Desert one, the MDS. Have you done either one of those?
No.
And maybe kind of pick one and just explain what that sort of is.
So. For something like the Marathon des Sables, which is a pretty popular one, it's a stage race that goes through the Moroccan desert. A lot of people like to do that one, again, not simply to win it or to be competitive, it's just to go and experience it and finish it. It's supposed to be some sort of profound experience, and even when you go out and see the desert, you know, you kind of feel something. And
have you been?
I haven't been, no. It's on my list to do. It's difficult for me to do something like that. I've tended so far to stay away from the really extreme stuff, only because I don't want to worry my wife and my family.
Yeah.
But you know, as far as I'm aware, it's perfectly safe to do. It will be something we'll look at in future. The Barclay Marathons is something completely different. It's just off the scale difficult. They've only had, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 people ever finish this thing.
Oh, is this the one that you have to find notes and stuff?
Yeah. So the guy who organizes it is crazy. This guy, Lazarus, he first of all, even entering the race is a challenge because nobody knows when it's going to be held. There's no date. There's no open registration. You literally have to research into somehow find out when this race is going to be held. So that's, you know, that even getting into it is a hurdle and a challenge. When you turn up, you don't know when it's going to start. You stay in a tent until the guy, I think he just lights a cigarette or something, blows an air horn, and that's the signal to start. And then it's a race through really, really harsh country. I think it's in Tennessee, but apparently it's, you know, there's no real sort of smooth track to run on. You're doing laps of, I think, 60 miles or so, and for every lap you do, you have to find pages of a book that he's torn out. And it's just incredibly difficult. And this year, I think when they ran it, nobody finished, so nobody made it.
Yeah.
It's just off the charts difficult. It's something that I find fascinating, and I follow it. But in terms of actually trying to complete that, I'm on the fence about it because I think there's a point where you just push it into ridiculousness, which is what it is. You know, it's almost funny.
Yeah. Do you look at this ultra? Do you look at these ultras as a sport, or do you look at it as like personal development?
Both for sure. Since I've started doing it, you know, I've been constantly, or not constantly. It's more of a rarity, but I kind of surprised myself even when I started doing it. There's no expectation for me to really produce results or get to the level that I'm at. But it's been such a gradual journey that I found myself, in some races, especially the smaller ones, actually competing for top spots. I managed to grab a sponsor this year, which was awesome.
Give them a shout out. Who's your sponsor?
Ultra Running.
Yep, and we'll put that in the show notes as well.
So they now sponsor me, and it's just done wonders for my confidence. And I find that even coming from last year to this year, I'm really improving. I'm probably racing a bit too much. If I cut back on the races and focus more on some training and really put my effort into some A races, I've no doubt I could improve it even more. But even the race doing tomorrow, this is a huge trail race. It's one of the biggest in the world. And I was contacted by the organisers about a month or two ago to say, hey, you know what? We want to put you in the event program. We want to profile you as an athlete and put you in the program. And to hear that was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
This was the first event I really got into when I was looking at trail running. And I used to read this program, and these guys were all my heroes. Like, how do these guys do it? They're incredible.
Yeah.
So if in some way there's any chance I'll appear in the event program, I'll know tomorrow when I go and pick it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be like a huge life achievement for me. I'm going to feel $1 million.
That's amazing, man. See, that's so powerful. Just that moment, and everybody listening to this could hear it in your voice. Like when everybody likes the whole, somebody who does great things, but it's when you have that, when you kind of come full circle, when you have you at once were looking at these people who were doing this, and now you're that person doing it at a high level. To people listening at home and myself, though, would give us some advice on, it doesn't even have to be about trail running. It doesn't even have to be about ultra endurance. But you're in your 40s now, and I come from a hometown where after you graduate high school, man, you either work in the steel mills, and that is it. If you're not good enough to play sports in college, that's it. And you're pretty much, just waiting for the clock to pass by. So what advice would you give for the people out there who maybe feel stuck, or maybe they're in a bad scenario, adversity has got them down? Maybe shed some light on, maybe some tips or secrets that have helped you in the past to get you to where you are now.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, look, the thing with ultras is that everyone's going to tell you it's crazy and it's impossible and that you can't do it, especially if you're out of shape. But I just look at myself back, 10 years ago. The reason I started running because I just wanted to lose some weight. I was horribly unfit. I was overweight, and the thought of doing anything like I'm doing today was just so far in the distance. I would have just told you to shut up. I can't do anything like this. So never say never. Don't look at things like this and go, I wouldn't enjoy it, because I don't like running. I never liked running. I only picked it up just to lose a bit of weight because I thought it'd be a good idea. Running doesn't cost anything. You can just go out, you just run on the street. You don't need to be a member of a gym. But never tell yourself it's not possible. You just need that little impetus to start. That's all I had. I just wanted to look good for my wedding photos.
Yeah.
And it's all come from that. So, just like I say, never tell yourself that you can never do it.
That's amazing. Guys, follow Chris's blog at shortbaldrunner.blogspot.com.au. I'll put that in the show notes. Anything else, man? This was really fun. I really appreciate you sitting down, sharing space with me. Finally, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I used to host another show, and it's awesome to sit down with you, get to see what that psyche's like, because I see you training at the club all the time, man. So I want to say thank you. Anything else that maybe you want to plug? You got a race tomorrow. Maybe shout out to the sponsors one last time before I let you go.
Yep. Again, thanks to Ultra Running for sponsoring me. They give me gear. They're always there every race, and it's a great brand to follow.
Yeah, it's Ultra?
Ultra, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that'll be in the show notes. And hey, man, good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot again, brother. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
And boom.
Nice.
Cool, man. Dude. So what I'll do, I've already put the intro on that. I'll put what I'll do is, I do a little bit of production side. I'll add the music to it, the tail end. And then when I'm ready, I think it'll either be this Monday or this Wednesday, your episode will be up. It'll either be episode, because I release them Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mm-hmm. And I'll use we're going to take a picture upstairs. I'm going to start promoting your feature on my social medias with the pictures you gave me.
Cool, yeah.
And then I'll put the Ultra in there, your blog in there. And then let me know how you do, man. And then let's do this again,
Yeah.
because down the road we could, the mindset thing. A lot of the listeners or coaches. I just got numbers back from Libsyn, my podcasting host.
Yeah.
58 countries and 44 out of 50 states in America.